Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixie Land. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we're in Bible study. We're in the NIV, and we will be through the end of 2025. In 2026, we'll start the KJV version of the Bible. In this video, we're in Exodus chapter 39, and we're going to do all of chapter 39, which is till verse 43. So, let's jump in. The priestly garments. From the blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, they made woven garments for the ministering in the sanctuary. They also made sacred garments for Aaron, as the Lord commanded Moses. The Ephod. Let me get a footnote of G. Or he, and it's also the same in several other verses in this, made an ephod of gold and of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of finely twisted linen. They hammered out thin sheets of gold and cut strands to be worked into the blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen, the work of a skilled craftsman. They made shoulder pieces for the ephod, which were attached to its to two of its corners. So it's like here and here, I think. So it could be fastened. Its skillfully woven waistband was like it, one piece with the ephod and made with gold and with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linens, as the Lord commanded Moses. So we're going with a theme of colors here. They mounted the onyx stones in gold filigree settings and engraved them like a seal with the names of the sons of Israel. Now notice here they talk about it being onyx stones, whereas for in other places they're talking about there being different stones for the different tribes and not just all onyx. Now, onyx, it's sort of like in some versions they say beryl. And that's like, well, beryl is a classification of type of stone and not just a specific stone. I do believe onyx falls into one of those same classifications as well. Whereas for onyx, otherwise, when they're talking about onyx, so, I mean, it wouldn't be any of the rest of those colors. There isn't an onyx sapphire. It's onyx. Then they fastened them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses. So they really make the ephod sound like it's more like a breastplate, but they have other priestly garments that they're calling breastplates. So, but the breast piece, in fact, is the next piece here. The breast piece. They fashioned the breast piece, the work of a skilled craftsman. They made it like the ephod of gold and blue and purple and scarlet yarn and a finely twisted linen. It was square, a span. I'm going to give a footnote of H. It is at about 9 inches or about 22 centimeters, so span on something specific to them. A span long and a span wide and folded double. Okay. They mounted 4 rows of precious stones on it. See, in the first row, there was ruby, topaz, and beryl. See, there's the beryl. In the second row, turquoise, sapphire, and emerald. In the third row, jacinth, and agate, and an amethyst. And in the fourth row, chrysolite, an onyx, and a jasper. And you got I, as a footnote there, or lapis lazuli. So I wouldn't call lapis lazuli a type of jasper. Back there we have red jasper. Hang on a second. So this is red jasper. This is the most, red jasper is probably the most common form of jasper that there is. This is lapis lazuli. Those don't look anything like each other. So I don't know how they would confuse the two in these scripts. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Unless you clearly have, people who have no idea about any of these crystals. Now, I can also tell you from these stones that they are listing in here, you can find these stones in that desert. And you would literally be able to find them in the desert. Just go to the right type of, mountain incline, and they're going to be there. And I can say that because I live in the desert, and sometimes I do just find any number of these stones laying around in its rough form. Not so much with the topaz, the rubies, or the emeralds and sapphires, mind you. Although raw emerald, it doesn't look as pretty as you would think when you see it with, like, we could put it in the jewelry settings, because the gemstone is being cut down to have that shine. What it looks like in the raw form and what it looks like in the cut form are often two very different things. Some of them have a more crystalline structure to them versus others. So some of these are easier to find than others. And some of these are actually indicators that you can find other minerals in the ground around them, like chrysolite and all the different stuff. This is all very big out here. We have in fact, it's about to, it is just finished. We just said we have the world's largest gemstone show in like basically the world. Happens in Tucson, Arizona, the end of January into like the first, really the second weekend. It goes for it goes for 2 weekends. It starts on a weekend and it goes through the following Sunday to like the 9th, February 9th is when it stopped. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So I know a lot about these things. Not only can I just find different things, like I can find just, onyx in my yard at random. Same thing with turquoise and a bunch of other different things. You can find them, but sometimes you do have to go on specific hikes to be in specific canyons because they might only be present in certain parts of our geography here. So easily, these things were stuff where it seems really rare to somebody who has absolutely no access to these things. Understand that you just wouldn't need to know where in their environment you could go harvest them from. Just like you would need to know that here, only the difference being those lands in between where you had big settlements and stuff, people didn't necessarily claim those lands as their property. Towns tend to be within fortified walls, so anything that was out there, you could argue with the people who are living out there about whose resource that is. It's not the towns. The king isn't coming out of his walled thing necessarily to go get that. Right? So it was more open. Verse 15. For the breastpiece, they made braided chains of pure gold like rope. They made 2 gold filigree settings and 2 gold rings, and fastened the rings to the 2 corners of the breastpiece. No, they were smart to be the opposite corners of the ephod. They fastened the 2 gold chains to the rings at the corner of the breastpiece, and the other ends of the chains to the 2 pieces, and the other ends of the chains to the 2 settings, and attached them to the shoulder pieces of the ephod at the front. They made 2 gold rings and attached them to the other 2 corners of the breastpiece on the inside edge of the ephod, and then they made 2 more gold rings and attached them to the bottom of the shoulder pieces on the front of the ephod, close to the seam just above the waistband of the ephod. And they tied the rings of the breastpiece to the rings of the ephod with the blue cord, connecting it to the waistband so that the breastpiece would not swing out from the ephod, as the Lord commanded Moses, because they didn't want it flopping forward. So, this breastpiece is made of cloth, not of metal. they made it like the Ephod. They made the Ephod of gold and blue and purple and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen. Then thin sheets of gold, but they were cut into strands like fine thread to wove in to make the pattern in the fabric, but it's made of fabric, not of a metal. I say that because there's a lot of movie scenes of Aaron running around with this thing on him, and it's like, it's made of metal or it's made of leather when it's really meant to be made of linen. So just, other priestly garments. They made the robe of the ephod entirely of blue cloth, the work of a weaver, with an opening in the center of the robe like an opening of a collar. All right, so you could put it over top of you. My brain is now thinking of some sort of poncho situation. And the band around the opening so that it would not tear. So it had like a collar, a seamed collar, okay? They made pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, finely twisted linen around the hem of the robe, and they made bells of pure gold and attached them around the hem of the pomegranates. That's right, because he had to have bells, so God wouldn't smite him when he walked into the temple, the tent, the tabernacle tent. The bells and pomegranates alternated around the hem of the robe and were to be worn for the ministering as the Lord commanded Moses. For Aaron and his sons, they made tunics of fine linen, the work of a weaver, and a turban of fine linen, the linen headbands, and the undergarments of finely twisted linen. The sash was finely twisted linen and purple, blue, and scarlet yarn, the work of an embroiderer, as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the plate and sacred diadem out of pure gold and engraved on it, like the inscription on the seal, holy to the Lord. Then they fastened a blue cord to attach it to the turban, as the Lord had commanded Moses. So he had to have a gold plate on the top of his turban, like right here, because it hangs down like a diadem, and a diadem hangs down so that you have something right here hanging on your head, because that's where it's supposed to be sitting, on your third eye, because you didn't, fix holy to the Lord, like they had to write on his forehead. Moses inspects the tabernacle. So all the work on the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, was completed. And the Israelites did everything as the Lord commanded Moses. Then they brought the tabernacle to Moses, the tent and all of its furnishings, its clasps, frames, crossbars, posts, and bases, the covering of ram skins dyed red, the covering of the hides of sea cow or dugongs. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I think I am. And the shielding curtain, the Ark of the Testimony with its poles and atonement cover, the table with all its articles, and the bread of the presence, the pure gold lampstands with its rows of lamps and all of its accessories, and the oil for the light, the gold altar, the anointing oil, the fragrant incense, and the curtain for the entrance of the tent, the bronze altar and its bronze grating, its poles, and all its utensils, the basin with its stands, the curtains of the courtyard with its post bases, the curtains for the entrance to the courtyard, the ropes and tent pegs for the courtyard, all the furnishings for the tabernacle, the tent of the meeting, and the woven garments for ministering in the sanctuary, both the sacred garments for Aaron the priest and the garments for his sons when serving as priests. The Israelites had done all the work just as the Lord commanded Moses. Moses inspected the work and saw they had done just as the Lord commanded. So Moses blessed them. I'm not sure if he means the people or the articles, because both of those would have to be done so they can be sacred to the Lord. Because, sanctification would have to happen. So, until the next video, friends.